with Scott Allen.
Hello, I am your host, Scott Allen, and this is Phronesis, Practical Wisdom for Leaders. If the topic is leadership, I'm in. I've spent more than 20 years in the field teaching, learning, writing, and questioning. When I'm not working on Phronesis, I travel, delivering keynotes, working with individuals and teams, and helping people from organizations across industries become better leaders. Want to learn more? Visit me at scottjallen.net. Phronesis offers a smart, fast-paced discussion about all things leadership. We explore relevant topics and incorporate practical tips to help you make a difference in how you lead and live. Listen Notes lists Phronesis in the top 3% of podcasts worldwide. Phronesis is the official podcast of the International Leadership Association. ILA brings together those who teach, study, and develop leadership, advancing leadership knowledge and practice for a better world. Learn more at ila-net.org. Finally, if you enjoy Phronesis, please subscribe to stay current on our weekly episodes. If you find an episode that resonates, please share it with your colleagues and friends. And if you want more content, subscribe to my newsletter, The Leader's Edge. The link is in the show notes. As always, thanks for listening. And now, here's today's show. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Phronesis podcast, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for checking in today. Very, very much appreciate you doing so. I have Brandon Chrostowski with me today. He is the founder and president and CEO of Edwins Leadership and Restaurant Institute. Brandon Edwin Chrostowski is renowned for changing culinary and hospitality training in and out of the nation's prisons, while preserving French cooking traditions. His mission-driven effort to train and staff former prison inmates at his flagship French restaurant and nonprofit has created a national model for reentry and an educational pipeline for the formerly incarcerated to learn the discipline and skill of dining. A culinary virtuoso, Chrostowski's journey began with classical training. As a chef and sommelier, he honed his skills that distinguished fine dining establishments in Paris, New York, Chicago. His extraordinary journey has been captured in the Academy Award-nominated documentary Knife Skills, providing a compelling narrative of his mission and impact. National media outlets, including the New York Times, Washington Post, and Today, have featured Chrostowski, bringing attention to his innovative approach to culinary education and social reform. Sir, thank you so much for being with me today. I very, very much appreciate your time. I know it's valuable. Maybe give listeners a quick snapshot of what you're up to. And I know that it's been a journey. We're going to put a lot of links in the show notes, but maybe give a quick snapshot.
You got it. Hey, Scott, look at me. It's fun to be on with you. It's nice to be able to just, shoot the shit with somebody instead of, being grilled here and, doing things in a certain form. But yeah, man, look, we're still slugging it out. We're getting it done. We help men and women who have been affected by this criminal justice system, reach their goals and full potential. That's it, period, point blank. We happen to use a vessel of food and wine and hospitality to help them reach that goal. But at the end of the day, for 6 months, someone comes to us and we train to the top in a butcher shop, in a bakery, in a restaurant, in a dining room, in a kitchen, right? And throughout that journey, someone really has the skills to, make it happen. But we also care, so we wrap this very strong hug around you. I have 2 case managers here. We have housing. We have, now 5 buildings for housing where someone could live for free. We have child care center. That's no cost to anyone with children. And of course, all the other bells and whistles like, getting health insurance for someone, an ID, and on and on and on. But we're just trying to do what we can with what we have and create a real positive atmosphere.
Brandon, I have just such great respect. We've had a relationship for probably about 6-7 years now, and it's just been so much fun to watch you build, watch you create. There wasn't a bakery. There wasn't a butcher shop. A lot of these wraparound services didn't exist when I first met you, and you've been building. And I think what I want to talk about today, because as an entrepreneur, as an individual who is building an organization, I want to talk about problem solving because you're an expert at problem solving. And so I want to take some of the training in culinary skill. I mean, I've heard you talk about some stories of working in a lot of different restaurants that were really challenging situations that challenged you to really, really take your skills to the next level when it came to problem solving. So a couple of those stories, and then how that applies to being CEO and building an organization.
Yeah. Specifically, I'm not sure if there was a place and time or an example, right? It just kind of over the years of being challenged and pushed and the odds against you and you having to figure a way out if you want to stay within that organization and restaurants and or around that prestige or that excellence, you have to figure this shit out. And it's funny, it's not like you come into a kitchen, they say, well, this is how you're going to figure it out. They just give you the task and you gotta figure it out. So I think there's some things just naturally in people that have a strong desire to succeed who will overcome whatever obstacles given to them. And the longer you hang, it's like a pitcher, like you're watching a pitcher pitch. The more you see their pitches, the more you can kind of figure out what's happening on their release and everything else. So the longer you can hang in this kitchen, the more tools you feel are at your disposal to solve the problem and so on and so forth. So it's just about hanging. But, there's just been some brutal people I've worked for, and they are intentionally that way, not out of anger or ego, maybe a little ego, but they would challenge and make sure they got the most out of the people who are working for them. So it was intentional and, very thankful for that. But, I think the other part of this is just remembering, we're all just ambassadors of a farm. I mean, that's what we're doing as chefs or as sommeliers is, putting forth the best product that the land's given us and doing it in a simple way. So I think the first thing about, being a CEO or chief executive officer is not thinking that I'm a CEO or chief executive officer, just, simply an ambassador of people who have a need and using the tools that are in our toolbox or my toolbox to be able to deliver that need. But, nothing about chief or anything like that. But it's kind of funny because that's how in the business world, people respect that title, right? It's crazy.
Okay, so figure it out. I mean, I love that phrasing. We'll probably call the episode that, figure it out. And you have individuals who are kind of built to figure it out and have been in situations where they've been told to figure it out and you have to hang. You literally have to stick with it, push through. What are some elements underneath figure it out? When you are working with someone, what are some indicators that this is the individual that has that mindset? What are some of the indicators for you where you look at them and you go, yep, okay, that's it?
Yeah, I would think just the spirit, their unwillingness to stop. They won't stop. They'll keep it going. They will use the tools that they have at hand to make it happen. And when you find someone who's resourceful in that way, shape, or form, you're building with the right block. Someone who throws their arms up, well, I'm not an octopus. I don't have 8 arms. Well, you know what? Yeah, but you have to be. It's like, how would you say it? Like the cop-out answers. Like when you can find someone who doesn't even have that in their repertoire, I think you found the right person. I'll be honest, we get very little of people throwing their hands up or saying, I can't. It's just people have been used to in situations of incarceration or survival is just to endure and to figure it out and to keep going. There was no complaining. Maybe afterwards, you shoot the shit, you say blah, 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 but who doesn't? But in the moment, it's just like a natural part of living where I think in some other maybe atmospheres, cultures, or economic stratospheres, that's not normal. For us, it's normal. In the kitchen, that's normal and so on. So that's what we look for. We look for that ability to grasp onto the fact that it has to get done. There's no excuse and figure it out without, quitting or throwing your hands up. Now, on the other hand, there are some people who, the part where you take that exit of saying, oh, I'm not doing this shit. I can't. Sometimes it's because of how someone feels about themselves or of confidence they have. And that's a totally different exit ramp of saying, I'm not going to. It's sometimes you find there's a real mental block that says, I can't because I really can't. So then we can help you get over that roadblock, but the attitude part is not what we're looking for.
Yeah, so there's a difference between having a mindset and then a skill set. And you are so focused on really, really developing that skill set part of the puzzle as well.
Exactly. There's a lot of different angles here. Never a straight answer, but
what else? They're resourceful. They don't give up. They figure it out. There's a mindset there. It could be an issue where they're going to really struggle because they don't have the skill set yet. But what else makes you look at someone and say, wow, that's it. Yes, this is the type of individual we need. They've got it.
I think, a long time ago, someone said, you got to be a very good soldier to be a good general. You have to be able to fall into a system and adhere to what they're asking and do it within, how they're supposed to do it. And I think, you don't want someone just like dumb and like say, yes, chef, I'll do anything. I'll run through a wall. It's like, no, you need someone who's like, they understand that what we're asking them to do is for a reason and it's part of a bigger picture. And, good soldiers that mentality is perfect. And you want that because if they can stay the course and trust the system, that discipline will get them to a point of leadership. And then in which case we're still asking them to be, good soldiers and, trusting now a leadership system, but you're overseeing people, right? So I think that's another part of it, man. There's got to be a discipline there and a buy into a system. They have to buy into what we're doing. And I think that goes for any culture, but here especially, because there's so many moving parts and so many different layers. And
I mean, you touched a little bit on leadership. How have you seen the concept of leadership shift in the kitchen over the years? Or has it not, in your opinion? I mean, how do you think about that when it comes to leading in the kitchen?
I mean, are you kidding me? It's changed a ton. I mean, a shit ton. I mean, I came up in a system where physical, I don't know, harm was part of the game. It wouldn't be unusual to get burnt on a forearm by a pan if you were doing something incorrectly. And verbal assaults and abuse was certainly that's like par, right? If you're not doing that, you're not in the kitchen, right?
Okay.
And I just think that was the way. And there was professionalism that started to develop, especially from the culinary schools. My alma mater, the CIA, starts to produce this more professionally driven chef. It didn't mean that they weren't wackos, right? Like they're still throwing plate here and there. But there started to become this idea of, decency and professionalism. And, nowadays, I think leadership overall has evolved. Right?
Sure.
Being thoughtful about someone's day or their situation is definitely more situational, individual to individual. But in the kitchen, I think it's still the case. I think one part in my career that helped out was, you could choose someone out, man. You could really, MF them up and down. But at the end of the day, you'd always repair that situation. Like, hey, I know it was hot tonight. Yeah, it was really frustrating that you couldn't, get the chicken done properly. And, we're still good. I still respect for you and so on. But in the moment, that was like the first step for me getting to a point of like working with somebody that was not destructive. That's the word. It was more constructive. And then now it's really coming to the fact that, you're watching someone do something and you're letting them know like, hey, at this point, you need to like look, approach this task under pressure from a different way. Like it's like lower your heat maybe in the pan if you're busy, because your high heat is you're not getting to the pan fast enough where now it's burning the thing that you put in the pan. So it's making little adjustments and teaching those little adjustments in the trenches. Now, there are times where you still got to get put the boot in the ass and say, hey, we got to get it done. We're not focused. What's going on? It's, Saturday after a long Friday. And then that, there's usually a response to that, but that's definitely deliberate and it's measured. In the past, it was nothing, just let loose and, we'll find another person to replace them, like next man up. Like that kind of mentality was always the way it was. Now I think that's shifted in industry across the board. If you want that, you'd have to go to Europe more so than you have the States. And even there, it's starting to subside, which is kind of crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is in the leadership literature, there's these leadership styles. And so you have an authoritative, or let's say a coercive style, which is that yell, tell, hard sell kind of directive. I'm going to move now because I said so. You have kind of a pace setting style, which is like go, 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 go. You kind of turn up the heat a little bit. You have a democratic style where you say, what do you think? Where should we go next? What's on your mind? And you kind of open it up to folks. You have a style that is a more affiliative, which is hugely like relationship based. So I'm going to get work done through relationships. And you have other styles that I haven't even mentioned right now, more of an authoritative style where it's kind of, I have a vision, here's where we need to go. These things can be combined. And I want you to kind of like think of a metaphor of golf clubs. So of course, you don't tee off with your putter and you don't putt with your driver. Each of these are appropriate some of the time, but it's more about being intentional as to when I should use this style and when it's appropriate to use the style. So at least what I hear is that kind of the evolution you've seen in a lot of places, maybe not so much in other areas of the world, but coaching style was another one. Like, hey, I'm going to coach you through this right now. I'm going to pause, slow down, and coach you so that you understand that, you're prepared to do this again next time. And I don't have to continue to have this conversation with you. So these different clubs are appropriate for different places in the game. And sometimes people are using the wrong club for the situation. They're overreacting in a situation, being a little too forcing. But it sounds like you've gotten pretty good at using the different clubs based on the situation.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, in like situations where, humanity's being rebuilt and restabilized, your golf course is like a treadmill. So if you can imagine the ball, you hit the ball in the rough, the ball doesn't move, but your golf course is like this tread. Now it's rough, now it's smooth, now it's sand trap, now it's water, because that's the human nature of somebody, depending on the day, depending on the psychology. So yeah, this is the situation with like where you hit your ball. And there's sometimes just the terrain is ever fluid. It's like a wave. It's like water. And you have to now, not just situationally, but personally, emotionally, situationally deal with certain ways you're doing things. And that's usually out of the kitchen. when the kitchen's on, it's great because it levels the playing field. Everyone now is on a surface that is relatively equal and sound. And then the business of the night is kind of what changes your terrain, right? It's fluid, but you create a system or a vacuum where you can almost block out all the other emotional, personal things that are going on because it's so laser focused. And, some can find that terribly addictive, which, I do. I think it's great. If I'm pissed off, dude, I can work the line on one night and I'm fine. Like, I'm fine after one night. Like, I got it out of me. It's in the food. It's like, and then other times it could be troublesome depending on how you look at it. It could irritate you more.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great environment to be able to let go. Everything around the world is stopped. You're in a very focused environment. It's food. It's food.
Yeah. And everyone has a clear role and knows their job, and we're going to knock it out. Very, very clear mission, objective, go.
Yep. And that's where sometimes digging in someone's ass, you're not thinking about the personal issue or this issue, or, you're just like, we got to go. Yeah. And there's a sweetness in that. But then there's the other 90% of life where you have to really be situational, emotional, and so on.
Well, okay. As you think about yourself in this journey of leadership, what have you learned about yourself? What stands out for you? And what are you still working on?
I mean, I learned I am who I am, right? I mean, I've been given gifts and, I utilize those gifts. I know that by working hard, I can kind of buy time for some people to get it. I think that's part of a leadership style, working leader. There's always something that I'm working on. I've been comfortable in my own skin for a while. I think what's changed is, the idea when you try something over the years, like an ingredient in a dish, you say, oh, that's nice. Okay. And then, maybe, some time passes and the situation comes up again, use that same ingredient plus another ingredient, say, wow, it's even better. Like, so I was just like that, man. It's just like putting another spice into things and you say, oh, it worked. Okay, let me try that again. And like anything else, I think it's called a wisdom, experience, and so on. But, I still got to be hard, fast, and decisive. That hasn't changed. But I think what has changed is letting the field go a little bit longer in terms of growing. So if I'm taking like a leadership position that I'm trying to groom, I make sure she sets her scope 6 months from now and says, look, this is where I need to be. It can't be 6 minutes from now or 6 days from now. And then, at a 4-week checkpoint in my mind, I go up to them and say, hey, listen, we're progressing all right. But, I don't think you understand this part of the job or this part of the leadership that we're asking you to be a part of. And I think that's changed, man. I think that's changed a little bit, just throwing it farther than that, for sure.
Yeah. So being a little more patient with the person's development and growth and all of that.
Yeah. Sometimes just breaking it down. I remember the first time I was teaching, I was probably 22. I was teaching like in New York in this school that was like for trades, but they were like kids that were troubled. They had some attitude problems. Someone would tell me like to write on the board how to boil an egg. And I wrote it up there. I'm like, well, how high does the water go? Like, to think that you had to do the most basic thing and tell someone. I mean, just 3 weeks ago, my kid was started baseball, which is kid pitch. And I watched him in his first 2 games and there's just some discomfort. And so I work with him on how to be comfortable and confident, how to walk up to the plate, understanding the situation you're in. It's a battle. He's trying to beat you. He's trying to overtake you and you're trying to beat him. It's not just this like see ball, hit balls, have fun. It's like, this is competition. And I noticed his delay on his swing is like, I had to tell him like, when I'm throwing you the ball, watch my hand. And you have to pick the ball up from the point it releases the hand. In fact, you can pick it up before and how the ball is being gripped. And like immediately you start to see a different swing, a different confidence, different swing. And then, then he goes on like whatever. He becomes one of the strongest hitters on his team. And just development from like the most basic standpoint. Like, yeah, I'm throwing like, if you hit a baseball, you'd hit a baseball. You wouldn't even think that you're looking at their hand because it's so natural and so basic. And then hold on a second. You know what I mean? How to boil an egg. I mean, that still sticks with me. Like, well, how much water do you fill? Like, of course you put water to boil an egg, like, but some people don't know that. And then how much water? And then
I'm one of them. I would ask you how much water.
Sometimes when you're dealing with someone who's got no experience, right? And then confidence and so on, like to be questionable at times. And I think that's changed a lot.
Well, and just kind of developing that individual. And again, to your point, I mean, you have so many thousands and thousands and thousands of data points in your head of how all of this works that, yes, I think it probably can be pretty easy to kind of step back and say, oh, man, yeah, you put water in there and about this much.
Yep. And then always working on something, man. Always working on something, right? That's like the goal. Always trying to be better, man. Whatever it is, a skill,
Well, I know one thing that you prioritize, because we've talked about this, is that you take care of yourself. I mean, you're working long, long hours. But I also know that you referee hockey. And I know that you have some things that you really enjoy doing that are releases for you as well. Will you talk a little bit about how you think, I know that it's not work-life balance, so to speak, but how do you take care of yourself? Because you're working hard and you've been working hard for many, 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 many years.
Yeah, I mean, one, again, it's all the approach and mindset. I stay in shape, so I'm able to do all this. There's a reason why I'm staying in shape. There's a reason why I have to do this. I mean, like, there's no way I'm able to do what I'm doing without being in the shape that I am, making the decisions, making this, making that. So, and plus with kids, you don't want them to beat you up too. And like, you guys still maintain order.
And with four, that's getting a little hectic.
Listen, man, just gotta get stronger. Yeah, it's funny. But the first and foremost is, no television, right? There's no television at home and there's no streaming. There's no shortcut to this. I've been that way since, I don't know, the last 23 years. I mean, TV's not part of my diet, nor is social media. I carry a LinkedIn page simply for professionals who want to connect, but that's it. We have a firm that does the social media for the business. And so very clear mind, I think that clarity is huge. You can't blow your instincts. That keeps you tight and be able to make decisions intuitively, quickly. So that's part A. Part B is, physically. Yeah, seeing a trainer. If not a trainer, I hit the gym. You got to stay in that shape, full body, and then a lot of like supplements, from, fish oils and seaweed extracts to, multivitamin to BPC 157, which keeps your continuum of energy going and recharges cells. And then there's like these gauche, treatments you can do like cryo freeze or EMF where the earth waves get concentrated, pushed through you. I mean, it's all just like it all keeps you going, man. I mean, like I get a new pair of shoes every 3 months, like regardless. And I've been doing that for like 15 years. Like this is not like a new pair of shoes every 3 months. And you can feel it as soon as you get it, the pain and any part of your body just kind of goes away. So keeping a soft cushion under your feet. And I figured I'll do the math one day maybe and say, okay, divide this by spinal surgery. And I think I won, like I still think I'm ahead financially and I'm still getting a lot of my body. I can still referee the college kids and, keep up. So yeah, Scott, that's very, very important, man. You got to stay strong. You got to keep an edge in an environment with food and cooking. You have to be fit. The days of these fat chefs is kind of over. I mean, they're still big chefs, but you look at like chefs now being groomed, they're not fat, man. They're in shape. They want a long career. They don't want back and knee issues, and they're taking care of their bodies earlier.
Well, in some rights, they're athletes. If you think of the athletes of the 70s, right? Having a smoke and a beer before the baseball game, that's not a thing. These people are performance ready. They are in. And to your point, yeah, if you're going to have longevity, if you're going to be sustainable, you got to take care of yourself that way, I imagine.
And we preach that here, man. We have we get you health insurance. We require a full physical. Okay. We don't want to see the result, but we need you to. We have a nutritionist come in. I've got a trainer that comes in with the staff. We have full-time snack bar here. So fruits, nuts, power bars, whatever. Health and wellness is preached inside of this building. And what you're seeing is less monster drinks and Doritos. And you're seeing a lot more focus on, I want to be a healthier person when they're writing out life plans, and that's unprovoked. Again, you're coming into an environment that's a lot of decisions being made and a lot of weights being lifted and a lot of just impact. You need to fend it off.
Well, as we begin to wind down our time, Brandon, I very, very much appreciate your time. Anything else you want listeners to know about the work or your work or Edwin's, how people can support?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you get involved. I mean, the easiest way to do it is come in and eat. How hard is that, right? Eat and drink. I mean, you really have to be a piece of work if you can't do that, right? Now, financially is one thing, I get it, but if your ambition not eat and drink is not there, I don't know. But that's the easiest way. Just come in, right? We have 4 entities here. You can visit us any time of the day, any day of the week. So, no excuses. That's the best part because it helps us sustain with, the income. It helps us train because we have someone to work with and work on and so on. Okay. That's 1. 2, you can always donate, write a check, go online. You can do all these sort of things. We have our big fundraiser coming up. Dude, big party, man. 500-600 people. I've got stilt walkers, jugglers, I got comedians, magicians, dancers, and it's all food, wine, cigars, whiskey, oysters, all at our campus. So it turns into this like party. And, supporting that is cool because you get to see what we do at the campus. You get to taste the food and you get to, obviously support. And then, people donate time. Groups from John Carroll have come in countless times to do a project. There's also people who donate time and help us consult with our students. Maybe it's like a skill that you have that you can train people with. You share your talents, like a nutritionist that comes in. I mean, there's so many ways to support what we do, man, but just getting out and doing something. Like doing nothing is bad.
Yes,
right?
in most areas of life.
And it's so easy. Like there's so many levels you can get on with us. But yeah,
My last question is always the same one, and that question goes like this. What has caught your attention lately? What have you been reading, listening to, or streaming? And that, again, could be a podcast or something of that nature. Now, we could shift it up a little bit. What's caught your attention in the kitchen lately from a culinary perspective that has caught your attention lately? So we'll leave it open-ended.
I mean, no, not the kitchen. I don't think there's anything that's shifted monumentally. No, that's caught my eye. I daily read, 3 or 4 different papers, worldwide, local, etc., just to get a bead, man. And like, what's caught my attention is the continued like civil unrest in certain places, and I've been out to Ukraine. I've been working, I worked there during the war. I was in Israel 10 days after the massacre. I went there right away. I did the refugee camp in Djibouti, Africa, which was life-changing. Poland. I mean, there's always like a world issue. And I think what's really got me right now is after Djibouti to see the lack of support, interest, awareness about these places that are suffering. Now, Djibouti's actually in good shape. Djibouti is a very, solid country, but there's still a refugee camp there. There's still poverty like you see in third world there. I mean, it's just the lack of things I mentioned in like the Black and brown community worldwide. Like you have the whole like thing here in the United States that, that kind of came up. Oh, the inequality, like we understand this, right? But worldwide, I was just shocked to see the growing issues in the world and the lack of focus on them, support, etc. So Syria has really got me interested. If you look at all these wars that are going on, it's got the most casualties and probably the most distress, and it's probably one of the least you hear about. So either getting over to Lebanon, work the border, or Turkey, or if so happens, get into Syria. That's got my attention. And just how these things just like fundamentally break down, man. Like the leadership styles of some of these people that are allowing this to happen. Like I look at Haiti, the kind of like how that all fell apart. And I look at Djibouti, they have good leadership, but I see how the refugee situation is terrible worldwide. I look at, you just look at all these different things. But that's what's got my attention. That's what's got my eye. I'll probably make a trip over there at some point. I don't know how soon. But yeah, that's what's got me, man. That's what's got me right now.
Well, and what I love about following you is that you go there. I mean, it's not just a general passive interest. You get on an airplane and you go and lend a hand. And that just says everything about you, whether it's lending a hand literally in your community, a mile from your home, or lending a hand worldwide in some of the most challenged places in the world. You're there. And so, Brandon, can't thank you enough. Your full bio is in the show notes for listeners. Lots of links in the show notes for listeners. So you can learn more about Brandon. You can learn more about Edwins. And of course, there's an opportunity to donate and get involved. So, sir, thank you for the good work that you do in the world.
Wait, what? Jonathan, Reams, what are you doing here? I'm about to do my reflection on this show. What's going on?
Well, we're doing more reflections. I've just popped into your life suddenly. Hey, you remember we did all these sessions about a year and a half ago on adult development and leadership?
Some of the most popular episodes we had, Jonathan.
We're going to do a pre-conference workshop at ILA on this. And what we're going to do is go beyond the kind of simple stage models and get into some real granularity of distinctions and tools to apply that.
No one better than you to do that. And you know what? I'm going to put a link in the show notes. So listeners, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the intersection of adult development and leadership, and you want to learn at the ILA conference in November, this is an opportunity for you. Now, Jonathan, I got to go. I got to reflect on this episode.
Come on, Scott, reflect away.
So your next task is to go to the show notes and click on the link that says knife skills and spend 40 minutes really kind of exploring the work of Edwins, the good work that they're doing in the world. And then if you are moved, support them in some way. Even if that's the next time you're in Northeast Ohio, you frequent the restaurant, have a visit, and support their good work. So much fun to talk with Brandon. Always appreciate his perspective and have great respect for his work ethic. For me, the practical wisdom is the curiosity that he displayed. And he said it, always learning. And I don't know who it was that said it, but leaders are learners. So
speaking of learning, a couple opportunities for you. International Leadership Association, November 7 through 10 in Chicago, Illinois. Links are in the show notes. And the International Studying Leadership Conference at the University of Birmingham, Sunday, December 8th through Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Birmingham Business School in the UK. Put those on your radar. As always, thank you for checking in, everyone. Take care. Be well. You have just finished another episode of Practical Wisdom for Leaders with Scott Allen. To contact me, visit scottjallen.net or send me a note at scott@scottjallen.net. I'm also on LinkedIn, so let's connect. If you have feedback, I'd love to hear it. And as always, thank you so much for listening. And now here's my daughter, Emily, with the outro.
You've been listening to Phronesis, Practical Wisdom with Scott Allen.